So today at Hope Through Arts, we're welcoming an artist. His name is Jess Sauder, and she is not only an artist, but she uses art to bring hope into many different people's lives. So we want to discover what that's about and look at examples of her work. She's also a published author. We're going to look at her book and hear a little bit about her life. So welcome, Jess, and can you tell us how you kind of got started in the arts?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm still in my very early years of art. I've always loved making things and exploring and seeing how things work, but I never really considered myself an artist. I had an older brother who was a very gifted painter, and I don't know, as a kid, I just figured there was only one of those per family, so it never entered my mind that there might be something in that for me. But my senior year of college, I had to fulfill an art requirement, so I took an oil painting class and loved it. And partway through the semester, my professor said, I've always remembered him saying, "Why aren't you an art major?" And I was like, what? Because it never even crossed my mind. And even though I knew I loved painting and I love manipulating color and stuff, I didn't have any idea that maybe somebody else would find that valuable or that I should pursue it in any way. But that's what gave me the courage to 17 years later think, oh, maybe I could do something art related.
Well, it's quite an epiphany, I guess, when you decided to grab the bull by the horns, because your art does not look like beginning art to me. It's very accomplished and insightful. I love the nature studies that you've done. So they're beautiful.
Thank you.
Those are pen and inks, right? The ones with the birds. They look like they're on pages of hymnals or something.
Yes, it's watercolor with a little bit of white gouache added to it.
Very nice. Very nice. So nature is an important source of inspiration for you. So you must enjoy. Yes. Do you go out and do plein air painting and sketching?
I tried that a total of one time.
Yeah.
So I haven't done a whole lot of that, but I've always loved being outside, but a few years ago, I realized that it was more of a necessity than just something that I liked. I don't know what it was, but I've always been pretty even keeled, but then I don't know, sometimes I just feel like there's so much going on in here and out in the world, and I really need that time in the woods and the quiet and seeing what's around me and being still and enjoying the beauty to get my head and heart in the right place.
Right.
I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Well, it does. It tells me that you feel a connection when you're out there and you're recharging your system. So, and for me, I taught a drawing class at one time up close to you at St. Francis de Sales. And it was called Drawing in Christ. And the idea was to take some simple thing that you found out in nature and really look at it and draw it. So we went outside and got blades of grass and pine cones and things like that, and stuff that we really wouldn't give the time of day for normally. But just getting quiet and looking at it and looking specifically at the negative shapes between the different petals and the stalks of grass and stuff help you compose the picture. And I feel that it's there's an old saying that says great art makes great artists. And when we're studying the work of the master creator, the Lord, it does something to us. It's not just a pretty stalk of grass. It's something that's flexible. It has color. It moves in the wind. It has even sometimes a fragrance if it's a flower. And those are things that we're kind of wired to receive and be touched by. So we can go to museums and ooh and ah over great works done by human hands, and there's certainly a place for that. But there's more of a direct connect with the Lord when we go outside, I feel. It's important to me too. And your story about your art teacher reminded me, I had the same thing happen my freshman year of college, where the teacher took me aside and says, I've only given out 3 A's and 2 are to art majors, and you're the third A. And you need to get out of this school and get into an art school. So I was shocked as well. I was like, I'd been convinced in high school not to continue. I took 1 freshman year of art, and I was dissuaded from continuing by the teacher. She said I was wasting her time. It wasn't very encouraging. So I poured all my creative energy into soccer, and that door began to shut my freshman year of college. But the Lord's faithful, and he opened this art door, which I'd done a lot as a young kid. So when that teacher gave those encouraging words, it kind of reoriented me towards a different horizon. So I was appreciative. And I think one thing I noticed in your book, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, is the importance of encouragement and words to kind of pat someone on the back figuratively and send them in directions they may not have considered before by encouraging them with empowering vocabulary. So I noticed that you have keyed in on that as something that you reinforce to the teachers and the parents who are following your book as a guide. But before the book came along, you decided to I think you got exposed to art as a therapy tool with seniors. And now we're going to segue over to your slideshow and have you talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the different slides.
Okay. You want me to just start talking?
Well, I'll interject, but yes, you start.
Okay.
Introduce us to the joy in the making.
Okay. So it was, I think, the end of 2015 that I met Catherine Fetterman, who was working with actually my grandmother in a long-term care home, painting. And so my parents saw what she was doing and said, oh, you need to meet Catherine. And so they put me in touch with her. And from there, I kind of, how would you say?
Got training.
She started mentoring me in working with the older population. And originally it was under an organization called Art Without Boundaries. And kind of their focus was on using sustained focus specifically for painting to stimulate the brain. And so I trained under her and did that. And we both kind of broke away from that organization and spun off to our own varieties of things. But so for a couple of years, I was doing one-on-one with people in different long-term care communities in my area.
So how did they find out about you?
Well, I had to go around and kind of put myself out there and talk about what I was offering. And then the activities directors would kind of put me in touch, or they would let the families know. And then the families would contact me, and then we'd set up time.
Oh, that's nice.
Their parents, yeah.
How many students did you juggle since you're doing this one-on-one? I imagine there weren't that many that you did.
No, it was. That's funny you asked that because I haven't counted it up. I always had a certain number at, and now it's been a while, so I'd have to think about that. I would go around to probably 4 or 5 different places and work with 2 to 4 people at each place.
I see.
And then I started doing some small group classes too at a couple different places, which was fun. And that tended to be a little bit more exploratory type art. And introducing, well, I always like to do poetry at the beginning, and I really never explored poetry either. All this is so new to me. So it was all very exciting as I was kind of going out and deciding what would be good to add to each of the individual programs. But we'd start with poetry and song and a little bit of movement and paint. And it was just a lot of fun to connect with whoever it was. I mean, some people were a little bit more in the moment, you know, and
Yeah.
other people would just what we talked about would bring up memories, and so they'd be sharing those memories while we painted. And I really do enjoy the older population.
Well, I just out of curiosity, you know, poetry and visual arts aren't always linked together. And I'm wondering what happened when you were, I guess you challenged your client or they challenged you to say, "Oh, I've never written poetry." And, you know, how did you react to that? I'm sure that came across your creative table there.
Well, the one that I'm thinking of in particular right now, she was almost blind, very poor vision. But she had wonderful memories of her parents and flowers and gardens. And so we would be painting a picture, and I had to cue her kind of, you know, I'd put her hand with the paintbrush in her hand with the paint and kind of tell her where to move, and she would do it. And she just really enjoyed that process and talking, and she loved this song, Blue Skies. So we would listen to that, you know, I don't know, probably at least 15 times, all different versions. But a few times with her at the end, I would ask her a few different questions and jot down the answers. So questions like, how are you feeling right at this moment? And she would say, and I'd write the phrase down. And what does this, it would be related to what she chose to paint. What does this remind you of? And what does it smell like? So she would give me like 4 or 5 different phrases, and then we'd organize them, and it would be a poem. And it was, I don't know, it just made me smile, and it made her smile. And she was like, "Oh, that sounds so poetic." And it did.
That's wonderful. Did you have an opportunity to share those with others?
I would share that with their families.
Oh, that must have been really meaningful for them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. What does this first page say? Inspires hope, breaks down barriers, nurtures relationships. So these are all things that you've identified as the fruit of this work.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it comes to like sometimes your world gets smaller, you know, if you can't leave, if you're always in the same few rooms, and you're relying on other people to kind of bring things to you to do. And one of the neat things about this is that it would give the family members something to talk about with their loved one, and to chat about, and just a point of connection, because sometimes it's hard to get past the how are you feeling today, what did you have for lunch, you know.
Yeah, my mom's in a retirement community now. She's 98, about to be 99.
Wow.
And yeah, she's the oldest one on her memory care unit floor, and she's in really pretty good condition, all things considered. So, but there's nobody doing any kind of creative work like this. You're giving me inspiration here. So let's move on to your next slide and see what you would like to have us see.
So these next few, yeah. this woman loved sunshine and loved Florida and yellow, and she really enjoyed the time together. And
Yeah.
it was sunshine for my day too.
Yeah, I see that you had them put a shadow at the baseline in, and you had them wait for their colors to dry before they came back in on top of the yellows with the reds, and the
The
leaf is,
yellows were always the hardest because they're like fairly transparent. So sometimes you have to keep going over. But
yeah,
yeah.
I'm working with yellow and oranges in a painting right now. I know exactly what you're talking about. So, well, this is a nice piece. Her smile is beautiful as well. You can tell that she's connected with you and connected with, I believe that beauty is something that originates with God, and that when we align ourselves, it can come in and bless us. And we're sort of wired to have that happen. It's one of the ways we kind of get re-stimulated, and it's a great antidote to difficult things that are happening, is to connect with something that's beautiful. So I can see
Yeah.
you've hit the mark here. And also, these pieces act as like memorials. Once this person has passed on, it can be distributed to the families, and it's a nice way to remember the last chapter, rather than just be remembering those conversations about meals and is everything okay and what's not feeling good and that sort of thing. This is
Right.
something outside the box, and it's a product of concentrated efforts, and it's enjoyable to learn the language of color and composition. And normally you don't think someone who's in their 80s or 90s be taking that on, but with proper guidance, obviously it can happen. So well done. So who's
Shall
next?
I move on?
Yeah, please.
Okay. This was a very prolific painter. She loved to paint, and she was so detail oriented.
Mm. She's very confident.
Yes. And like one of the fun things too is just giving choices, because a lot of the people I worked with were in positions where they weren't able to choose a lot of things on a daily basis. So when we did this together, it's like you don't want to give too many choices, but you can give a number of choices so they feel like they have a little more say in what they're doing. Empowerment, I guess.
Yeah, we take that for granted, those liberties, and then all of a sudden, when they're not there, the simple things we can appreciate. I was just listening to someone doing a YouTube morning prayer routine, and it was talking about thankfulness, and some of the things that they talked about were things that we just simply take for granted. But when you look at what's going on in the Ukraine, you realize that you can't always take them for granted, like housing and cooking your own meal on your own stove, and figuring out the schedule of your day. All that's been taken away from those folks, and adds a lot of stress. So bringing that back in through art is a wonderful thing that you've done and are doing. This is a beautiful piece. I can tell that she's quite proud of it.
She is, yes.
Yeah, I imagine. Did you help these folks get things framed up or matted up?
There were some people I would just kind of work with once, and their home would kind of give everybody a chance to do one. And other people, like the last two that we saw, I would make scrapbooks, like the memory book size.
Yes.
Because those would slide in, and then they
good.
could show their families and kind of have a little album.
It's kind of not a full-fledged gallery step, but it's a half step in that direction.
Yes.
So this looks to me like Catherine Fetterman. this picture?
No, this was another wonderful person that I painted with. And actually, she was my longest, most prolific, but she was not in a home. She lived in her own home with her family and had an accident. So she
Oh,
was recovering from a number of different things. But she never painted until after her accident. And that was just a real joy for her. And again, she loved detail, and she liked to do cards. So I always would set her up with cards, because she would make, she probably has done thousands of paintings that she sends to people.
wow.
She just sends cards to encourage people, whether it's just to say hello, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, or thinking of you. And a lot of them were to random people she would just meet at the store, who were kind, or I don't know. She was just this beautiful, she has such a beautiful heart, and
Wow.
she's an inspiration.
She sounds like quite a minister of love. That's quite a gift.
Yes.
It's something you don't run into every day.
No, no.
So I see that she's got the finished work that's giving her inspiration in front of her with trees. It looks
Mhm.
like they're in a snow scene. And
Yes.
she's studying that, and you're giving her some guidance as well, I imagine.
Right. Yeah. So I would go over and um, kind of give her pointers and some tricks and tips. And then she would continue painting for the next, week or two until she saw me again. And then she'd choose something else that she found challenging and would work on. But she always she divided her inspiration pictures into seasons. So she always would pull out all her fall ones for fall and then put them away, go to winter for, December through through
Sounds like she had an
February.
organized mind.
Yes, very organized, but just delightful.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's quite a story. Oh my,
And then
we got a
I
group
had a
project
few,
here.
yeah, these are just some friends. I did several paint nights just because people wanted to. And so those were fun, but just kind of occasionally. And
All
then,
right.
do you want me to do stop share?
Is this the last one?
Well, there's a couple more after this. This is,
Are they related to the book? Because this is the cover of the book.
I
Right.
think the next one or two are related to the book. And then after that is more current stuff.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the book. It's up here, and let's start with, were you commissioned to do the book?
No,
So you were inspired to do the book.
I was compelled to do the book.
All right.
There's no
Well,
other way to say it.
I read every page. It's just fantastic. And I shared it with one of my kids. And I said, there's some awesome exercises in here to unlock your heart and, take a step away from difficult traumas and things like that. And so let's talk about what compelled you to do this, because this isn't exactly working with seniors.
No, and this it was probably around 2017, I think, the middle of 2017 when I started working on this. But I had a loved one that was really struggling with their mental health, and they had good doctors and therapists and medication and everything, but it still was just always a struggle to find combinations of things that really
Right.
provided for their needs. I mean, there's no magic bullet that takes care of anything. And so I just kind of started thinking about art as maybe a vehicle for helping to develop some tools that would be helpful for them. And then I was actually at one of my mom's prayer that we would meet to pray, and it just like this framework came to me, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. That seems like it would be really neat. And then my loved one asked me within a few weeks of that or it might have even been within a few days, if I would be able to do art with them, possibly in some capacity. And so the general idea came together pretty quickly, and I started writing down things to do with them. But then I just things kept coming. So I continued writing just ideas about how it could work and planning. And I don't know. I just kept going because I felt like I needed to keep going.
Well,
I guess.
it's very encouraging, and the idea of using art to unlock things that are pent up or that we're in a form of injury. I mean, we all take on injury. So this is I was just kind of dusting the surface when I said, art has a way of recharging. This has got specifics that are designed to bring out emotion and instill confidence and a can-do kind of position. And is this a book that parents could get to walk through kind of art therapy with their child, or is this something that's only designed for an art therapist or counselor to work with? What do you imagine?
Well, when I did it, I wanted it to be something just about anybody could pick up and kind of use in whatever capacity, whether it was individually or with a small group, or in a school, or in a group home. Or I wanted it to be very basic, and ends up being whatever that person or community needs it to be.
What kind of
I
feedback
think,
have you had from it, from people who are in the sort of
well,
in the instructor's seat?
that's kind of getting on to maybe I'll say a little bit more about it before we get to that part,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
So, and the whole idea is that it's not based on anything new. It's just kind of putting different pieces of things together, based on the idea that self-awareness and intentionality are a really important part of life. So art and making things and doing things with your hands can be a vehicle for learning and cultivating those skills. So that's kind of the general idea that it's based on. And my loved one that I actually, where it started, initiated from, they take it around, or they have for several years. They would take it around and just kind of use it on their own when they
Oh, that's
needed
nice.
it.
That's nice.
So
Well, it's a guide and a source of ideas, and sometimes we get a little stuck, or we think I'm not artistic, but my kid is. This is a good in between segue to be artistically fluent, to be able to give some guidance to a project and understand what the project's hope might be to bring something out of a person or cause them to shift in the way they're thinking about themselves or about others in terms of destructive thoughts. And this is shedding light onto new paths that they haven't potentially considered. And so this reinforces that and gives some guidance, which I think is just fantastic. I was just blown away when I read it. And this is available on Amazon. We're going to put a link for people to get the book and explore it on their own. and plus we'll have an email contact for you to answer questions if somebody has some for you as the author. So let's take us to the next page of your presentation here.
This is just some of the different projects that are in it.
Wow.
So I kind of had it split up into, there's projects that you would do over the course of a few meetings or days or whatever. And then there were projects that you just do in one sitting. And then there were also every time there's different prompts for journaling, both like writing, kind of thinking through things and attaching words and thoughts to things, but also just to do in an art journal.
Nice.
So it kind of has a few different components to it.
What type of supplies are listed in the chapters for people to organize so they can take on one of the projects?
So I tried to keep it all pretty basic so that, depending on where people are, you might not have access to a lot of things. But aside from paper, it's basically watercolors. There are some that use just the little craft acrylic paints that you get at Walmart.
Right.
And some are things that you have around the house, crayons, glue sticks, but even some projects, I think we used Elmer's glue, just the plain liquid glue, pens, colored pencils, regular pencils.
Nice.
All pretty basic supplies.
Things that you could probably all find at Walmart.
Yeah, yes.
So average things. Don't need a fancy easel. You don't need a light table.
No, nothing.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you recognize that as a potential challenge point for people who are administering the lesson to be held at bay with, and you're saying, and this is easy to find and easy to work with. So that's good.
Yeah, trying to get rid of there are so many barriers to that we face, and especially in the mental health field, there's always a shortage of resources, whether it's money or time or staffing. It's hard to make things happen. And so I just wanted it to be as accessible as possible for as many people as possible.
Well, these look like great projects. See, batik-ish perspective. String art looks particularly interesting to me. I think that those are beautiful abstract shapes. And that's another thing. You wouldn't
believe how easy that is.
Yeah. I'd like to see a demonstration. Maybe on another film we can do that.
Well, I have YouTube videos for every single project that are just kind of
that's awesome.
fast, so you can see what it is, because reading it, you'd be like, what does that mean?
Oh, that's
just
great.
A quick visual. Yeah.
Well, we'll be sure to put that link in the description box on this. So, and part of what we're doing here is we're outreaching to the normal YouTube audience, but we also have a way of communicating with a television network which broadcasts to Africa and Europe. So they're out of Canada, and he's a friend of mine. So he's going to be putting our video up on his network as well. So people are curious about what's going on in America. They'll be able to see. All right, let's move on to the next slide.
Oh, the next one is current stuff.
These are photographs that you've taken. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I didn't
Well, you
I put
obviously
some
have some miles
on.
with the camera because these are not amateur hour pictures. These are beautifully composed and the lighting is great. You got quite a good eye for what's going on here. I love this one with the thorn holding the little vines in
Mm.
place. It's very nice.
Well, it's just like when I'm out, it's staggering. And actually, my husband doesn't like to go walking with me because I continually stop to look at things, because there's just something tiny that catches my eye, and then I look at it, and it's just amazing. I always I think it's a quote from Einstein, something about either nothing is a miracle or everything is a miracle. And so it's like the older I get, I just am, I don't know, I feel like everything's a miracle.
Well,
Um,
you used the word intentionality earlier, and I see this as intentional design that God has blessed us with to have this be part of our lives. So it's really great to feature it and to share it with people who get to being too busy with life to stop and take a look. I mean, the
mhm.
luminosity of, I'm not sure this is a milkweed pod or something like that, but it's translucent. You see the vein network of the leaves. It's a marvel. And
Yeah.
really, we can't come close to duplicating it with our own efforts, but we can be inspired by it and sort of incorporate that beauty into what we're doing.
Mhm.
So in the moth, um, one of my kids is just enamored with moths. So I, that's like a beacon for me. It's like beautiful, and it's got purposeful. It's not randomly placed stuff. When you're in the art world, you recognize intelligence by the way things are organized and presented.
Mhm.
And this is one of the things that affirms for me the creator having thought things out, even down to the microscopic, but even up through these levels as well. That his intentionality is bringing beauty and life together, and that it's
Mhm.
just everywhere when you stop to take it in. So well
But it's
done.
amazing to me too, because it's like you think of things as weeds and even moths. You think, oh, butterflies are the pretty ones. Moths are just like the weeds of the flying world. But they're just so, I mean, it's all just so exquisite and just incredible. And so it's also a gift just to be able to not only, it's like you have this beautiful creation, but then you also are able to, we're designed to be able to see and to smell and to, engage with it. And
Exactly.
that's just such a gift.
It is a gift.
These are just
This is what I
some,
was talking about at the beginning of the broadcast. These are wonderful, just wonderful.
yeah. So I have been ever since COVID. So COVID, you earlier asked about, what did you ask about? How people who have responded to the book,
Hmm.
the program guide. And so I didn't really think about it till I was looking at your questions, but I finished the book and started working on an introduction video, and then COVID hit, and um, COVID hit and everything stopped kind of. And so I'm not I'm not good at, I'm not a marketer. I don't have a network. I don't have my foot in the door anywhere. So um, there's not a lot of people who have seen the book or seen
Okay.
the program guide. So
So this is
um,
an official invitation for people to reach out to you to be a piece of the puzzle that comes together to help this move out into the wider world.
yeah, to share it. And
Yeah.
I was also going to say that there are hard copies available on Amazon, but you can also download the whole thing, a digital copy for free, if you want a digital copy or to see what it is before you purchase it.
Well, that's
So,
very
and
generous.
all the resources that go along with it are on my website as well.
Okay.
So,
Well, we'll be sure to feature that information so people can get to your website and look at it and follow your prompts and leads. So, are these available as prints for people if they're interested in buying a piece of your work?
they are currently, I'm still, my time is very limited to actually do much, but I do currently have several different prints. Three of these are available: the bluebird, the little wren, and the robin. And then I have another wren that's also in print form. And I
Okay.
also have a set of 5 different cards, and I'm selling those at a shop just locally. And I'm currently working to, I need to frame my originals so I can find a shop to partner with to share with the community too. So I'm kind of in the process of figuring all
Okay.
that out.
Good. Catherine knows your area pretty well too. Maybe you could tap her for some direction on that.
Yes, yeah.
So we have a couple of movie clips too that we're going to, these are movies that you made, correct?
Yeah, yes.
And I'd love for you to either talk about them first and then play them, or vice versa.
Okay. So the Live Fully one here, that I did, I think it was about a year ago. I was kind of transitioning because I had finished up the program guide and was not working with the memory care painting anymore. So I was not sure what I was doing, but I just wanted to encourage people to keep, to keep doing things, even though, the world was kind of looking a lot different, and everything was kind of uncertain. So the Live Fully one is just kind of an encouragement to keep doing and to try to get past, all that fear and the things that hold us back from
Okay.
doing something.
Well, that's an antidote to COVID and war and rumors of war. So that's great.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's see what happens. Go ahead and start that up.
Okay.
This is Max. He's funny, creative, and kind. He also struggles a lot. Max tries to fix his pain, often in ways that lead to more harm. He has a caring family, good doctors, and insightful counselors. Great support, but he needs more. We are each unique in the way we connect with the world around us. There's no one-size-fits-all plan for healing imbalance. There is something we all need: hope. But how do we find our way to hope when all seems dark and lost? What do we know? We know connection is vital, connection with others and ideas. We know engagement is essential, engagement with our world and our senses. We know focus is necessary, focusing our minds with intentionality. And we know lifelong tools and constructive habits are key to building a thriving life. My Max asked me to do art with him to help him cope with his lows. So we did. This is where Journeys began. Simple elements put together to form an arts-based program, flexible to fit different communities and schools and the needs of their young people. Journeys is rooted in 8 guiding principles. We are priceless. Our journeys are distinctive and meaningful. We leave a unique imprint. We are dynamic. Tomorrow holds moments of joy. We have much to discover. We can choose authenticity and grace. We can choose to connect and create. How do we find our way to hope? We play, we learn, we affirm, we share, we express, we explore together. Journeys Thrive may be something that enriches your community. The handbook equips mental health professionals and educators to implement the program. People who care deeply are willing to be present and to seek and celebrate those moments of hope. Max still struggles, but he knows he's not alone. He has more resources, more connection, more tools at his disposal as he navigates each day. He has hope.
Really sweet. And you put these together as a filmmaker yourself, correct?
Yeah, yes. I'm a hack, but yes, I just did it in a app on my phone.
Well, that makes it for me even more incredible. They communicated just fine. They were very encouraging. They're
Good.
sweet productions. So we'll have that be part of the final production. So, well, let's, I wanted to ask you about whether you have a print in mind that you'd like to dedicate to raising some funds for a charity of your choice. So, like for
Yes.
instance, one of the birds would be great, but whatever you're thinking of.
Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I guess I would need to choose a specific one.
Well, or you could have just people be able to, how big are they? Let's start with that.
They're 8 by 8.
Okay. So they would come unmatted and just as a print. And we would have a minimum amount of that we need to see as a donation. Like $125 for, does that sound reasonable? That's kind of the starting
Yes.
place.
Oh, it is. Would that be for a set of 4?
That would be, I was thinking of for one, but if you want to do a set of 4, that's even better. Is this all,
Yeah.
is this all on one card stock?
Each one is 8 by 8.
I see. Okay. So yeah, a set of 4 for $125 or more. And then the proceeds, we'll wait for a 30-day period to go by, and the highest bidder gets the set of 4, and they're signed by you. And they can be a great gift for someone who loves birds and loves art. And the idea is that the highest bid amount comes to you as a check, and that you then send that money off to a charity that you're going to introduce to us. So this is one way to kind of get to know the artist even better, is something perhaps in the mental health field or something along those lines. And you would just give me a link for that, and I'll post in the description box as well, so people can get a little more deeper look as where their money is going to go. And this is a way where art can be transformative in people's lives by raising some funds and awareness of a needy, of a charity that ministers to people and gives them hope. So I'm sure you have a charity that you can mention.
Yes. Yes, I do have one in mind.
And what is that?
To Write Love on Her Arms is a nonprofit, and they were one of the ones I heard about them about the same time that all the other stuff, the idea was coming into my mind, and my loved one was asking for help. And so that was all kind of pivotal to Journeys Thrive happening. And so in their words, it's a nonprofit dedicated to presenting hope and finding help for people struggling with depression, addiction, self-injury, and suicide. They exist to encourage, inform, inspire, and invest directly into treatment and recovery.
Wow.
So yeah,
Great.
that really resonated with where my heart was when I was writing the Journeys Thrive.
How long did it take you to write the book?
It was about 2 years.
Wow. Well, your dedication is commendable. It's awesome. So, well, ladies and gentlemen who are watching this, and we just hope you've been touched, and that Jess's work to make this a more livable planet, a kinder place, has moved you, and we encourage you to reach out to her with some encouraging words to inspire her to keep looking for new horizons with her work and her call to minister to people, especially in the mental health community, both as direct recipients and also as the counselors and the parents who are looking for ways to unlock the things that bind people. So it's been a very inspiring journey to understand what one kind art teacher said to a student years ago. I hope he's stayed in the loop to see where his words have propelled you forward. And that's also a little memo for all of us to realize that kind words add a great highlighter of hope to everything. So
Yes.
for Hope Through Arts, I thank Jess Sauder, and this is Tomas Fernandez, and thank you for tuning in to Hope Through Arts. And please like the video and subscribe, and we'll be producing more shortly. Thank you.